Let's go ahead and continue making some improvements to the look and feel of our site. So if I go over to Nitrous, right, we've got the server running, as you can see down below here, and I've got the website open in a different tab. Now, if I refresh here, we've got the latest showing up, and you can see we've got some alignment issues right here on the home page as well as on the about page. So we can fix that pretty easily by going over here and then heading over to this app folder, the views folder inside of it, and then layouts, application. So let's go back to this view file right here where we added this navigation bar. Okay, so this is the layout file. So anything we add here is going to affect the entire site. So what I'm going to do is just wrap this special yield Ruby code here with another div. So just adding some pure HTML here. And I'm adding a special class here called container. Okay. And this comes from Bootstrap. So again, we're seeing another benefit from Bootstrap here. And I'm just going to tab that in so that it's tabbed in a little more consistently now. So notice what happens here. So now that I've done this, if I go back here and I refresh, you'll see the alignment is looking better here on this about page. And if we click on the logo here and go back to the home page, the same thing, the alignment has been improved. So what happened here? We added this container class, and what Bootstrap does is it makes sure anything that's wrapped inside of this container class gets aligned properly in our site. Now, this yield code right here, all that's doing is it's saying whichever page we request. Like when we click here, we're requesting the home page. If we click on this, we're requesting the about page, as you can see with the URL. So whichever page we request, the content for that view, okay, will output right here. So no matter what, this nav bar is always going to show throughout our site as long as it sits right here in our application layout file, okay? But this yield part right here is now wrapped inside of this container, and that's what outputs whichever page we're on. So in the case of the home page, right, if you see that right there, this code will show up inside of that yield section right here. So this is almost as if this gets replaced with whatever is inside here. So this home stuff right here. So all that would be output just from that yield code. Okay. And so that's how yield works. It just outputs whatever should show up depending on which page you're on. So if we're on the home page, you'll see whatever is yielded out there. Now, let's make some quick improvements to this home page. So if I go here under pages and then click on home, what I can do is wrap this in another div. Okay, so I'm going to wrap that and I'm going to close it out on this side. And we'll just indent this properly. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is do class here, add a class to this div that's wrapping it, and say Jumbotron. This is another Bootstrap class. And if I save that and go back over here and refresh, you'll see now we got this gray box over here. So that's a little bit nicer for our home page, okay? And now we've made an edit here on this home view right here, okay? This view file called home.html.erb. But we didn't make any changes to the about page, this file here. So that's why when we go here, you'll see it looks the same, and that's good. That's what we wanted. So going back to this home file, what I'm going to do is change this title out. First, we're going to make this an H1 tag since we're not using any H1 tags on the page yet. I'm going to save that. And then I'm going to change the name of this site. So we'll say, welcome to DevMatch. We'll give the site a name and we'll call it DevMatch, okay? And then what we're going to do here is add an H3 tag just for some smaller font underneath it. And from here we'll say, we'll kind of write an explanation of what this site does. So we'll say, okay, so we'll save that. And then when we go back over here and refresh, there we go. We've got all of that showing. But now it's all kind of left aligned. It'd be nicer if we could center it. So Bootstrap gives us an easy way of doing that. All we have to do is just add another class here. And remember, you can just space out classes like this if you want to add more classes to the same division tag. We can add this special class called text-center. Okay, so when we do that, everything inside of this div tag is going to get centered. Okay, so if I go back here and refresh after saving, There we go. Now it's nicely centered. And the great thing is, because we're using Bootstrap, everything's going to kind of work nicely even on mobile devices, as we can see here. So everything seems to be working okay. And I want to point out something interesting right now, just so that you know. Okay, so when we were working with this gem file here, if we click on it and we added this Bootstrap SaaS gem, okay, that's how we installed Bootstrap into our site. And you want to make sure that you added this version number, right? We talked about that. And notice, for me right now, when I go to the Bootstrap website, okay, and if I go to the home page, their version number is 3.3.1. And that's the version that I've got written here. And that's the version that you should be using too. However, down the line, they may improve their library and make changes and come out with new versions. So they might come out to version 4.0, and that might be what you're seeing at some point in the future. So that's okay. If that happens, just keep in mind their website might change and some of these classes might change. They may get rid of that Jumbotron. For example, that Jumbotron class that we were using used to work the same way, but it used to be called Hero Unit, like that, in an older version, okay? So I'm going to undo that. So keep that in mind. Some of these classes wouldn't work if you had imported a newer version, but because in the gem file you specified this version, then everything that you're copying from my code here, as long as you copy what I'm writing exactly, then your site's going to still work perfectly. So just keep that in mind. And if for some reason the getbootstrap.com website is on a newer version, you can usually find older versions of the library just by searching in Google and saying, things like Bootstrap version, say 2 for me, if I wanted to find an older version than 3. And there you go. You'll find older versions of the library, and you can see, kind of how things used to be done, for example. So I just wanted to point that out so that you know, in case when you get to the Bootstrap website and, things are looking a little bit different than what I'm showing you here. But again, as long as you wrote this, which you should have the exact same version number that I've got, then, copying all of the code that I'm writing here in our site, as long as you copy it exact, your site should still look great. So we've made some changes here. Let's go ahead and save our work before we move forward. So we've got the server running here, and that's okay. I'm going to leave it running so that I can keep moving forward. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit this plus sign here and open up a new tab. And we need to navigate back to our Rails application directory, this one. And so the way we do that, again, is just cd workspace. And remember, you can always use your tab key to autocomplete. And again, I'm just reiterating these points over and over to kind of make sure that you really absorb them over time. So hit enter, we're here. And you can see this star right next to the branch that we're on. That means there are some changes that need to be made. So if I click over here and say git status, we can see that we've made some edits here. And let's go ahead and save them. So we'll say git add, and we'll add all of them. And then git commit, and we'll say added Bootstrap classes and copy. We'll hit enter. And then we can go ahead and ship this off to GitHub so that we have it backed up. We just say git push origin and this branch name. We're going to ship that off. Just click right here and hit enter. There we go. Now we've backed up our latest code to GitHub.